Good morning, everyone. So I am Mike Alonso. I am with Pactum.io. This is Matt Swezey. Today we're going to talk about turnkey smart contracts. We are also going to we termed the coin rapid smart contract development, which is essentially what we're doing. And so what is rapid smart contract development? Well, we're going to get into that, but first we're going to talk about the big picture of blockchain, what we're doing, where we're going, and kind of talk about the state of smart contract development, and then talk about what and how we're doing it. So first, we're going to start off with the big picture. So we have a couple predictions. The first prediction is that within 10 years, the average Joe will be able to go about their daily life and use blockchain without even knowing it. We're going to go further in that prediction and say within 10 years, an average person can come onto some platform, create a complex contractual agreement with smart contract logic at its core. And so what that can do is essentially allow the average person to interact with blockchain, not even know it, by creating smart contracts that they don't know how probably it works, getting away from the code and just building up their contractual agreements as needed. And so what the big picture of blockchain is these four words of decentralization, immutability, transparency, and programmable money. And so these four words are driving everything in the blockchain space. It's what's driving every single ICO and every project that's out there working to build a solution. And everyone is trying to build a solution to every single use case. And I'm pretty sure if you've been here for a while, like we have about a year ago, this wasn't really as happening as much as it is today, but everyone is trying to create their own use case or solution for their use case and just throwing blockchain on top of it. And so this has some ramifications for that, actually. And so we've been seeing a lot of bubble talk, and a lot of folks like to compare it to the dot-com bubble. And these are headlines from recently with blockchain and Bitcoin. Or Bitcoin would implode, Warren Buffett with his predictions, and Reuters with their prediction that it has echoes of the dot-com bubble. So there's one aspect to that, and that's the prices. We've seen prices skyrocket, but we're not really at the top of this thing yet. And if you look at the dot-com bubble, we peaked at around 4 trillion market cap, and it took us a long time to even get there. And I think we're still probably in that entry phase where we're still developing tools. And that's a similarity of where we're going, but we're not there yet. And another similarity of what's going on with the bubble that we can tie into .com is that in the .com era, everyone was trying to create solutions and their .com solution for every single use case, similar to what's going on with blockchain. They're just tying blockchain onto every solution, and they were just trying to tie .com to every single solution out there. So you had multiple companies, multiple projects going on to do the same thing, to basically just create their own solution. And so they failed because the timing wasn't right. They failed because when they developed it, there was no one to actually use their products. So you hear a lot today, you'll see a lot of .com companies or a lot of tech companies that are building something cool, and they've done explosive growth within the past 3 years, and then they're like, oh, somebody was doing this back in the 90s. That's true, they were doing that back in the 90s, but there was no users there, right? And so you see the same thing happening in blockchain. So show of hands, who's used dApps on a day-to-day basis? 2 hands. That's exactly what's going on in this era, in this space right now, right? We have all these dApps that are being used or built, and no one's really using them. So it's all about timing and your users. And you know who the biggest users in this space are? Developers. So those that survived in the dot-com bubble focused on the basics and the foundations. So eBay, Amazon with e-commerce, Oracle, IBM, Adobe, those are survivors. You didn't see any of these one-off solutions that are niche market that didn't have any users. And so that is what we're doing. That's what we're focusing on. We are here for the foundations and the basics. We are focusing on development tools that are going to grow the space, perfecting the foundations by building and coalescing development tools to create the foundation and roadmap necessary for all these great apps to actually be built in 10 years that'll actually have a great user base. And so Matt is going to talk a little bit more about in detail about how we're going to get there and what we're doing.
Hey everyone. So let's talk about the state of smart contract development. There we go. All right, so there wasn't many hands that people use dApps on a day-to-day basis, but has anyone here actually done a tutorial in Solidity or developed in Solidity? 1, 2, okay, a couple more, all right. So, yeah, Solidity, we don't have the IDE that, say, Java or C# does, so we don't get those nice, helpful features to escalate our development. So with that, we're stumbling a lot. Also with testing, writing test cases is a tremendous amount of effort because one, dealing with money, you want to make sure your smart contracts are secure and sound. So with that, blockchain jobs have grown tremendously since 2010, as this chart depicts, at an exponential rate, which won't sustain at this rate forever, but I'd argue that this rate has exceeded the supply of developers. We've seen that ourselves personally, Mike and I, and the rest of our team, is when we go out and talk to potential clients and other people that have these great ideas that they would love to, disrupt these markets using blockchain technologies. It's just, at the end of the day, we're a team of developers that can only do so much just because there's so many hours in the day. So there's a huge demand for blockchain solutions. It's just we need the developers to meet this demand. And so this is where the platform, the Pactum platform, comes in to help meet this demand. So this chart just depicts the actual number of developers out there estimated. So Java being one of the bigger ones, about estimated 9 million developers worldwide. C#, 5 million, and then rough numbers for today, just it's hard to get an accurate count because our numbers from last year were actually from 2 years previously, so we kind of just took a wild guess, but we would estimate there's about 20,000 blockchain developers worldwide, and maybe 15,000 of them are actually dabbling in Solidity or any kind of smart contract language. So that right there does a great job and tell you that, okay, so we have this exponential curve of blockchain demand, but this chart shows that we don't have the developers to meet that demand. So we definitely have a problem there. So back to the Solidity development, right? So like I said, we don't have a full suite of IDE that's heavy-based. It's very lightweight. A lot of people use either Atom or my personal favorite is Visual Studio Code, and has a lot of helpful plugins that you can download through their third-party marketplace that makes your styling better, maybe some auto-completion. But at the end of the day, it's still very new and not mature. So it's definitely slow in progress. And so with any software development, you have the cycle. You have requirements gathering, business use cases, architectural design, the fun part, my favorite part is when you actually sit down and code it all, but that part is actually in terms of the time scale, is a very small piece of the entire software development lifecycle. The biggest pain is testing. So testing takes forever. One, you have to write your unit test cases. You have to make sure you test for every edge case, no matter how small, especially on the blockchain, because when the blockchain does, it scales to a global, worldwide use case. So when you have a small edge case that you may have missed, and then you scale that to a worldwide use, that edge case will be hit. Just a matter of time. I can guarantee that. Next, you have to deploy it. Then you have to support and maintain it, which part of the EVM does that for you. Part of it also relies on you because you have to code your smart contracts to be upgradable in the future if you need that. And next, you got to reiterate. So the next improvement, version 2 of your DApp. And that's why I was talking about upgrading. You can't just simply upgrade and replace your smart contract on the EVM, because once it's there, it's immutable. Yeah, you can destroy it so it can no longer be used, but that address is gone, is taken by that smart contract, and it's gone forever. Like you can, and other smart contracts that depend on that address, if you don't program that smart contract with a logic to be able to switch out that address to point to a new smart contract, well then your DApp just lost its upgradability, and now you have to start over from scratch. There we go. All right, so let's talk about the number of smart contracts that get deployed per quarter to the mainnet. And as you can see here, was it the third quarter or last quarter of 2017, there's just over 1 million smart contracts deployed to the mainnet EVM, which is a lot. And with that growth, y'all probably heard about CryptoKitties and how these digital cats just clogged up the EVM pipes and slowed down transactions, and people were wondering, is this the end? But luckily, the developers and the Ethereum Foundation and just the tight-knit community came together with the miners and were able to adjust the network and gas costs and make the EVM scale appropriately to handle the load. So we have, 1 million or plus smart contracts getting deployed per quarter now, and now we have this life cycle that I talked about earlier. So a lot of Solidity developers are going through this struggle on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. I'm one of them. Mike here is too, and most of our team as well. So our platform is here to abstract this bottom portion, the heavy architectural design, the actual coding, system testing, deployment, and maintenance. So the Pactum platform is going to allow people to come in and, depending on their use case, use UI elements to drag and drop to essentially create their smart contract from scratch. Other templates, if they're, say, using a buyer-seller escrow, won't need this complicated UI development. They'll be able to use a smart contract template, which is just fill in the blank, maybe some customized options, and now they can do cash on delivery as a simple use case. So let's talk about our average users. So as Mike pointed out great earlier, the average user are developers today. So our platform has to target developers to be able to thrive today, but we cannot forget about the technically inclined users that we have that do make up a small portion of today's users. So traders, people that are actually at the forefront of the trendy tech. So the visionaries, people that are loving the idea of what decentralization brings to the table. But in 5 to 10 years, we also got to keep in mind about the average user, the users that we don't have yet, the users that need something easy but don't want to think about it. Because today, when you're on your smartphone, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're browsing the web, you're using these core technologies, HTTP, SSL, IP packets. Average users don't know that they're using those technologies. They don't even know what those technologies are. You start talking that, you just lost their interest. So in 5 to 10 years, they need to be able to use a platform that utilizes blockchain and smart contract technology, but they can't realize that they're using it. They shouldn't. It should just be another application to them. All right, so now let's actually talk about more of the platform, right? So this platform is really nothing special. It's the traditional platform. It has a stack, a UI interface, API layer, the middle backbone layer, and then of course the EVM layer, which really lies on the HTTP on top of that. So let's start with the UI. UI is going to be, the hardest part is going to be the design of it. But other than that, we have all the JavaScript frameworks and libraries out there to make it robust and intuitive. So as long as we can nail the design and keep users' attention and make it intuitive, it'll be solid. Next part, like I said, I've been hitting on, is developers. So we have to have an open API that allows developers to come in and use our interface to maybe create a smart contract, deploy it to the EVM, but now if they have their own mobile application, web app, or desktop application, they can hook up to our API, use standard REST endpoints, and now they can interact with smart contracts without having to learn the nuances of actually connecting to a Geth node or a priority node and actually learn the actual difficulties of communicating with smart contracts directly. You know, the 9 million Java developers, the 5 million C# developers, all those developers know how to use APIs. So that's going to be one to drive it home. So all the other developers out there can now leverage blockchain technology and smart contracts. So the middle layer, our platform is using a Java backend, actually, and we're using the library Web3j. So it's a Java wrapper for really doing JSON RPC calls to a Geth node or parity node or whatever flavor you'd prefer. So with that, 2 of us on our team are enterprise Java developer backgrounds. So that's why we chose Java, just because we have together well over a decade of experience. Our CTO, Rich Merrill, which is in the back corner of this room, he has over 12 years experience in this industry. And I just have a little over 4. So together, me and him are, mostly him really, he's been doing a great job. And it's gone. Anyway, so the API layer, right? So I talked about web developers, mobile application developers, desktop applications. They need to be able to connect to the API, and then that will allow them to utilize the blockchain. And then the other graph on there was just a rough rendering mock-up. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's really zoomed in. Let's see if we can just go to the next. There. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, that's just a rough mock-up. Oh, too far. Okay, so to wrap up, our platform wants to enable mass adoption of blockchain technologies, specifically smart contracts, just because we know the power to disrupt everything out there. Everybody has their use cases. Everybody wants that. Well, how do you do this? Well, you need a platform. That platform has to utilize smart contracts, and the smart contracts are coded in Solidity and possibly in the future Viper, which is still undergoing current development. How do you achieve that? You achieve that through abstraction. So you got to abstract all the way to difficulties. So users aren't actually writing code line by line, and they're not having to go through and test their smart contracts. The platform will handle the majority of that for them. And how do you do that? Well, you use smart contract templates, SCT, configurable smart contracts, CSC, and then smart contract creation, SCC. So through those 3 terms and those 3 levels of smart contract development on the platform, we'll be able to accelerate smart contract development. And then through our GUI and API, we'll be able to connect end users and devs together so they can use the platform on both ends of the spectrum. So as a developer, a Solidity developer, they can come in, upload their Solidity code, we'll generate a UI for them, and now they can publish their smart contract to the marketplace on Pactum, and now end users, consumers, can go search the library, find the smart contract that meets their needs, customize it if they need to, and deploy it on the EVM. And depending on the price set points, it could be all they pay is the gas fees. Or if it's a really cool smart contract that the developer thinks he needs to get paid, he can set a price point, let the market decide, and now he's generating passive income through his previous smart contract creations. I came back. It's like, all right. So yeah, we're getting close to the end here. So let's take some time for some Q&A. Yes. Thank you, Mike.
Sorry. Do you have a demo that you can show to us, or is it still in the development phase?
Yeah, okay, I'm glad you asked. So we don't have a demo today, but we are in the last month and a half of developing our closed beta platform. So if you actually go to our website, pactum.io, you can actually sign up for our newsletter, And through that, we're going to send out invites to our people that we've met at conferences and to everyone that signed up on our newsletter to be our closed beta participants. So that would be the quickest way to demo the product.
Are you guys hiring anyone?
Good question. So currently right now, we are completely self-funded. Two of us are working full-time with Pactum, and we do consultancy on the side to help further self-fund ourselves. So a lot of people ask us, when's your ICO? When's your token coming out? We're keeping our options open. We may or may not ICO later this year. We'll get there when we get there. So currently right now, we're not hiring for salary, but if you have a spare time and believing our vision, we'd love to talk to you if you have skill sets to bring to the team. Yes.
What's your timeline for having a product that's commercially available?
It's a loaded question, right? So we have grand visions. So the 5 to 10 years where we have everyday users using it, that's 5 to 10 years out. Right now we're targeting more developers. So the first steps to start crawling is the smart contract templates, then the configurable smart contracts. And then after that, the smart contract creation. That's where you actually have the UI elements that you can drag and drop to create smart contract code from scratch. That will take a couple years in development.
If I can, is everything that runs all smart contracts, are they all on-chain, or is this is there support for plasma type child chains and so forth, and getting stuff sort of off internet?
Right, yeah, so all those side chains and everything you heard about that, we will support that, yes. Now, at this point, it's not, we want to get supported on the main chain, get that going, and then, build out that foundation solid before we go off to side chains. Yes?
Yeah, I understand why you're building around Ethereum right now, but I guess looking to the future, do you envision that your platform would be able to integrate with future improvements over Ethereum?
Yes, so we are launching on Ethereum first, but we are and will be blockchain agnostic. So any blockchain out there that has smart contract capabilities, we would love to adopt.
I'm not a developer, and respectfully, the title of this was Introduction to Turnkey Smart Contracts, and I came here just to understand what the hell this smart contract is about.
Yes.
That was your IDE, exposure to your IDE. Can you elaborate? Can you talk a little bit about the fundamentals and turnkey requirements for smart contracts?
Okay, so yeah, a turnkey smart contract. What is a turnkey smart contract? So again, you're not a developer, so you have to kind of meet me in the middle on this one. So in the software development realm, we have this term called turnkey software solution, especially in the enterprise world. So what is a turnkey software solution? Well, that's when a enterprise can come to a company, say like Adobe or Microsoft, and be like, hey, we have this problem, we need this solution. What do you have for us that we can use and install on our systems on premise that doesn't require us to hire a bunch of developers? Oh, here you go. Here is AEM. It's a turnkey solution. You install it on your servers, you do a minimum configuration, and from there you're up and running. So no development required, so no coders needed, and then the ability to quickly install on your systems and get up and running. So that's what a turnkey system is. So I don't know if we have any gearheads in here, but if you ever heard of a turnkey engine that you can buy from a company, a crate engine, a turnkey means it's ready to start when it's delivered. You just got to initially put it in, get it going, turn the key, it's going.
Thank you, Matthew. That's the last question we have time for.
Awesome,
for
thank you.
Today. Thank you.